So today we will take up the rest of the face. We did the eyes last week, and if you have any questions about that in the latter part of the class, then we can address those questions also. And maybe some of the drawing issues might be solved in the drawing part today. So I guess in every situation, it's like obviously we can't go from 0 to 10 in day one, but you also need to know where you have come to. So if we do the eyes and nose, the nose and mouth today, then when we after that we tackle the eyes, there is something different that happens. So it's almost like they have this breathing technique in pranayam. You hold your breath in, and then when you start inhaling and exhaling normally, you feel different. It's almost exactly that same kind. You shift a little bit and come back, and then you see some development. So as far as possible, keep your sketching on, and it even doesn't matter what you sketch. You could be sketching just general objects and then come back to eyes, then draw something else, and then come back to nose and things like that. So keep varying between the sketching and the drawing. With portraiture, the most important thing is getting the proportion right. You must be able to see that when you're drawing a line, that it is going to form the right proportion. So when we make the nose and the mouth, what we see as the outline of the shape very often is not that. It doesn't limit the feature to that shape. And that's where very often we make errors in placement of the shape in relation to each other. When we are drawing a line, we don't know whether we are drawing the outside edge or the inside edge or the center between that shape. So all these things are something that you will start seeing and then coming closer and closer to a more accurate line. Yeah, so in the end, what will happen is when you see a blank paper, you will automatically be able to see the face that you want to draw on the paper by just having practiced a whole lot of faces. That's what we want to get in. And no matter how many different techniques I try to show you, the more faces you make, the more you'll be able to see them and then be able to make more faces, and it just carries on. All right, so let's look at the different nose and mouth combinations that I have shared today. So in this case now, we can sketch out some kind of geometry in this as well. Like I can draw a particular triangle shape. Then I can divide it in a certain proportion and know where the nostrils might be, and then bring it down to where the center of the mouth would be. So already you can see how there seems to be some correlation between the shapes. And then again, with everything, there will be some kind of internal geometry that you can use to discern where you want to draw what lines. So let's say this is our unit. We have drawn a triangle, and then this is our unit, half of the triangle. We use the same measurement to where the dip between the lips are. It's not the same over here, so maybe till about here. This is where that unit measure would come. But that still allows us to figure out that maybe this is the division. So this is our unit measure. 1/3 of that is the upper lip. And then just a little below 1/2 would be the lower lip beginning. And then from there to the bottom part, it's probably 1 unit as well. From here to the side, 1 unit would probably be somewhere here. So we go a little less than that, but how much less than that? Making more lines will help you to figure out whether it is 1/4 of a unit or half of a unit. And that's all you need. Very often there is no symmetry, or very little symmetry, though everything looks symmetrical because of the shapes. Here again, you can see where the nostril would be. Okay, so I can go on and make as many lines as I want to give me some measure of the spaces. I can do this here as well, and then 1.5 times down. 1/3. So we can use this to start off. Now remember, though I have drawn a triangle for the nose is not a triangle. It actually comes on the side of this triangle. This is not an equilateral triangle. It's at least a 65, 70-degree angle from here. So if we make a very short triangle like this, we will get a very stubby nose. So all the lines and directions of the lines are very important. So in this case, you will notice that the line over here is almost at a 1 o'clock direction from the tip of the nostril. And this one is at 11 o'clock direction. That is good enough. That will be our starting point. And this, of course, is very horizontal. Okay. So we'll make these measurements and I will share this picture with you, and then let's start seeing how this works. Oh, this is very easy to send. All right. Now, one thing you remember is when you're making these lines, don't make them too dark. Make multiple lines in one place and try holding your pencil a little far away than normal. If you hold it too close, you will have a very cumbersome hold, and then you will struggle to make long lines, and then you will have to make dark lines, and then they'll be wobbly, and you'll be dissatisfied and want to erase, and then we'll go right back and make the same line with the same hand again. So let's trace back where the problem is and try making the line holding the pencil really far away. And whenever you're making a line, try to make the line in such a way that the hold of the pencil is perpendicular to the line that you want to make. So as opposed to making a line straight, holding the pencil parallel to the line that you want to make, hold it at perpendiculars and drag your hand like this. So if it's a horizontal line, hold the pencil vertical and drag the line like this. If it's a vertical line, hold the pencil horizontal and drag the hand like this. Okay, so now leave a little room around. So don't start your triangle right from here on the top. Leave about 2 or 3 fingers space over here, just in case we have to make some modifications. Observe the picture in which I have made the grid lines or guidelines. You can draw your horizontal line first. No matter how you build the grid lines or the guidelines, you can start the sketch from any point that you find most conducive. So I'm starting from the width of the nose. That's about this much. Let's draw a center line going straight up. And then from this side, I will see where is 12 o'clock. I haven't marked these lines, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. So I'm basically dividing this space into 3 equal looking triangular spaces. 1 o'clock is also a little shallow, I think. So a little more vertical than 1 o'clock would be where the triangle would come. And you just need 1 point. You don't need both. Or I think 1 o'clock should do. Yes, 1 o'clock should do. Then we divide that in half. So this is the top of my nose divided in half. You can use your finger and place your finger or a pencil to see whether you see equal distances on both sides. I'll just bring my camera a little closer it tends to blur a little bit. Let me know if it's not too visible. And now from the nose down, if we count, there's a green line, 2 pink lines, and then 2 purple lines going all the way to the chin. So we have the same distance 5 times. 1, this is the first green line. Then you have the second, the same distance. First pink line, second pink line. And just to be safe, let us see if we have made the measurement more or less accurate. So this is going to be the distance between the nose and the chin. Maybe, maybe not. I have my doubts. It looks too far away. But let's see. So here now, let's start marking the lips. From here, let's bring 2 lines straight down. The sides of the mouth are a certain distance away. We'll get to that. So I'm going to mark this line over here as line N because this is where the nose is. This will be M1, that's the top of the mouth. This one can be M2, that's the line in the middle or thereabouts. And this will be M3. So we have N for the nose, or we call it the nose line. You can't tell whether I'm saying N or M. Sound is too close. So we have the nose line. We have mouth 1, mouth 2, and mouth 3. The line, the space between mouth 1 and mouth 2 lines, we will divide that into 3 parts. 1, 2. So 2 lines in the middle of this distance will give us 3 parts. So the upper lip is somewhere, ends somewhere over here and starts somewhere over here. So we got this distance. And then at about just below the 2/3 line is where the mouth opens. Now for the sides, because we need a point for this to come to the sides too. We have these vertical lines. From here, we will just extend M2 to the sides. This is M2, go all the way to the side, like a horizontal line proper. And then from here, we take the same distance as this height. Remember, this height is going to be a little shorter, I think, than this. So don't get confused. This can all be done visually. You don't need to be very mathematical over here. And from here now, we will just draw a straight line for now. So we start getting a semblance of what we are expecting. And draw this light because all of this can change. The inner lip or the inner part of the outer lip, the lower lip, sorry, inner part of the lower lip comes a little from here, not from the tip. It has to be overlapped by the upper lip. We come sideways and then go inward a little bit inside here as well. And then somewhere over here you have the lower lip. Now, with the lower lip, you'll notice how the fold comes close to the side, but on this side, there doesn't seem to be a joint really. So it's often very disturbing to the illustration that these lines are taken as very sharp lines to the corners, because that is something that you will see in lips that are made up with a lot of drama. You will have a pencil, and then you'll have some outlining done and all sorts of stuff. And now after this is done, I'm drawing the chin at, you have one unit, and then you have the second unit, which is divided into 3 parts. And at 2/3 is where we'll draw the chin. And just to give you some guideline, you can make the face, a young face like that, with a line that is almost concentric to the edge of the lip, the lower lip. So this is again a starting point. If you want, you can manipulate this from the sides, make it either chubbier or even slender, or with a very distinct jawbone. All sorts of things are possible. Okay, so have you got some shapes in place? Which till now would have been very difficult, because we would have started with some one shape over here or here and then made it very difficult for ourselves. But at least now we have a ballpark idea of what will come where, with reasonable justification for the distances and the lines. At this point now, we can go back to the original image. That's the first image now. And we have to try to translate all the other shapes or the details of the shapes into this form. So let's start with the mouth. It's a good place to start, because it has got more things that can go wrong. Now just follow the lines that you see. And to some extent, you might also want to ignore the guidelines, but don't erase them. So I am not taking my lips this far. I'm bringing them inward a little bit. Checking the angle. This is again an angle between 1 and 2 o'clock. But the upper lip line is rather shallow. It's not as sharp as I was seeing it earlier. Now we can also shade this, so we get a better idea of how things will look. So you shade it with a neutral, regular, light colored shade, the lightest that you can make, all over. Though there is a highlight here, we are going to ignore the highlight temporarily. It'll just interfere with our illustration. And you can then create a darkish shadow over here. I have a feeling my lips might be a little thicker than need be, but let's see. Again, with this, we don't know until we do it. Hindsight. Now, don't attempt the teeth right now. Just make the lower lip. Keep checking where you are holding the pencil. And if you feel you're holding the pencil too close, adjust it. Hold the pencil far away. And also, are you holding the book, or are you holding your head, your neck? In the bottom lip, there is a much more prominent highlight. So we will maintain that and sketch everything else, this light color. So the highlight runs almost from the edge, from the left edge to the right edge, but it's fragmented. So we'll keep the fragmentation. Right now, I'm not giving any direction to the shading, just generally shading it. And through all of this, I have to continue to see proportion. So is the highlight, if I were to consider the highlight as the center point, the bottom line of the highlight as a center point, and I check what is the space I've left from that point to the top and how much space is there from that time to the bottom, I might get a better sense of whether I'm on the right track or not. There's some things that we didn't even see in the reference image because we made all these lines on top of it. So now you will see that the lips are not round at the bottom, they're actually flat. And here the color of the lips will literally merge with the skin. Not this line though, I'm going to erase that later. The reason I'm keeping the lines is to show you that even if those lines remain in your picture, it's not wrong. Let it be till you are 100% sure. Because sometimes a line like this can be a guide for another shadow, and then you might not even have to erase it. When we draw teeth, common mistake that everyone makes is to draw each individual tooth. That only makes the teeth look really dirty. So look at where the teeth are in proportion to the roundness of her lips. What is the angle they make and how much space there is between the lips, the lower lips, upper lip, and the teeth. And all you do is draw the silhouette of the tooth like this. Don't draw the line in between. I have just drawn this gap in between, but not the line. There's one more tooth hiding here, no tooth over there. Then you have a bottom teeth in shadow, which will be 4 over here. This looks very, very unnatural, right? And doesn't look anything like our picture. So here we actually have to shade just underneath the mouth over the teeth. We don't want bright white teeth shining out of what's actually a cave. There's a little bit of a highlight at the tips of the teeth, but not beyond. This doesn't make the teeth look ugly, but this will make the mouth look believable. So at this point now, we can start adding the darker shades. And as we add darker shades, we can adjust specific shapes that we are unhappy with. We have put in everything that we need to. So now these adjustments are justifiable. Your line has to be so light that with every correction, you only remove or use, let's say we add to the negative space. We're not removing anything. And the edge of the mouth is a fuzzy line. Don't make it a very firm line. So here's what I do now. The inside lip is a reasonably firm line, but you don't make it too dark. You're going to shade in over there. we can barely see the bottom teeth. So that those are going to be shaded over. Start off with shading the dark area around the teeth like this. So it'll almost be like an arrowhead shape. But start from the middle, not from the edges, and build to the edges. Because in case you've miscalculated where the edge of the mouth is, after completely shading it, you will know whether or not you were right. So you can always darken a little more on the sides than try to erase in that tiny space. Then there's a shadow of the upper lip that falls on the lower lip, and it's a very elegant little curve of the mouth, which I'm going to pull inside now. Because this distance is not as much as I had made it. For this reason alone, making the lines very light in the beginning works better. Making adjustments later becomes, it doesn't remain a bother anymore. When I'm shading this, I'm literally barely touching the surface of the paper. So wherever possible, I'm just using my fingers to move the pencil, not the entire hand. Usually in vertical up and down strokes, you can do that. Even in horizontal places where your hand just needs to move like this, you can do it with just the wrist moving. At an angle, you can move just the fingers. So try to keep that flexibility up. Now I'm going to shade the bottom and the side. So even with the teeth, because they're slightly rounded, you'll see the shadow just curves a little bit on the sides. And there are some indentations in the teeth also, which we don't have to bother making. And we can keep working on these as we proceed. So many times hidden inside the shadows, there are a few things that you want to show, but as if they're there, but they're not really there. They're not very prominent. So I normally keep that, like the teeth over here. I keep them visible just a shade lighter than the dark background I'll make behind them. So, as was the case with the eyes, as you start building features little by little, everything will move. Don't be stuck to what you have drawn before. And this time round, we will make the shading upright. To follow the texture of the mouth. And this time as well, keep your lines light. And in contrast to the dark, this patch on the lips will start looking like a highlight. So in a way, we are sculpting this. And you won't see your full results till literally the last piece has been put in. Now at this point, the shadows or the size of the lip at the bottom is interfering with how my lip is looking. So I am moving this. But it was pretty close to where I had marked it the first time round. And there is a shadow over there also. So this is what I mean when I say we don't often gauge exactly where the line should come when we are making the guidelines. Or even when we are making the original drawing the way it is. Just around this, I will draw the shadow. So my line does go in that area somewhat, but not very firmly along the sides. Because this is where the mouth, oh, I think I've drawn this a little too far. Yeah, this should do it. Turn beautifully. Here, the lips actually will merge with the rest of the face. So we won't have a very sharp line on this side. There's a nice shadow here. And then there's a shadow underneath the lip, which is fairly dark. It's not very big though. And a little bit of that shadow comes also on the side, but very in a fuzzy line. So compared to the first class that we had, where we made that abstract face, we finished off the mouth in quite a jiffy, no? Just fatafat shape on top and bottom, and that's the end of it. And kept it pretty flat, except for this little highlight that we made, shadow that we made, right? But now you see how much detail can come in the mouth. But it's the starting point was from there, and we just jump to a more micro level study, one might say. I still think that my lips can be adjusted, but I'm keep looking at the illustration from an angle, and in my book it looks fine. Then when I look at it on the screen, I can tell where I have to make changes. Now here, just add a little bit of a shadow in the corners to show that the lip is slightly upturned. A sharp edge of the upper lip on the side, sharp edge over here to distinguish between the edge of the lip and the slight shadow. Right, now once this is built, do you want a minute or so, or are you with me? All right, great. So now we can move upward, which is again a thing that we don't think of doing, assuming that everything must be very linear. You move from up to down. Now don't erase this part yet, the nose part. With respect to this, you can see where the other features come. So now with looking at your illustration and looking at the reference image, you might be able to find the point where that septum on the nose begins. And look at correlations, like in the case of the septum, the line of the septum goes up and out almost like the line on the nose. It almost seems like they're two parallel lines that are drawn together. Unintentionally, but they're there. And sometimes these lines can work as really good guides. After all, we just have to look at the line. Going back to our reference image, you'll notice to what point nostrils come. So now if this has come here, so will the rest of the triangle. So we just pull down the markers just a little bit. And everything else remains the same. And here you will have that little bulbousness of the nose. Now often you will find that a circle is drawn at the tip of the nose. So you don't need the circle, but in drawing the circle, you sometimes get a sense of the cartilage space. And from there, drawing the circle, you will be able to create much better shadows. In the absence of the circle, we tend to fumble quite a bit. So making that circle is sometimes a good idea. Now again, at this point, we can remove some of these extra lines, especially the ones that are going through the center of the nose. You can keep the lines on the side, that doesn't matter. And straight lines can interfere. I wouldn't have erased them, but they will interfere with you judging what is looking right. And now it's just a matter of shading and highlighting. So usually there's a highlight just at the base of any cylindrical object. And for just all practical purposes, right now the nose will be considered as a cylindrical object. So we have different kinds of shadows that come onto objects of different kinds of three-dimensional objects. In anything that is cylindrical or remotely cylindrical, you have these shadows. You'll have a highlight, and then you have shadows or the light falling in different rings. So you would have, and all these have technical names. I can give you those technical names if I remember them, but I don't want to go back and look at those. I'll send you these pictures. But the point is that what you need to know is you have a highlight over here, a little bit of a the penumbra of the highlight comes over here, reaching all the way up to where the equator of that cylindrical object might be. And after that, there's a sharp shadow. So you assume that this object is probably shaded like this. You would have a a medium shadow here, then slightly darker, and then super dark at the bottom. But this will actually make the object look more two-dimensional than three-dimensional. So in the case of three-dimensional objects, there is a drop shadow. And at this point, there is actually a reflection of the surfaces from here beyond the shadow. So you will have a very light line and not a very sharp edge to that as well, just aligning or touching the darkest part of the cylinder. And then it becomes even darker over here. And then it's medium. And then it's light. And then finally you have the highlight. So see this part over here? This part is the, I'll tell you the name. This same thing occurs at the nose over here. And often over here. And generally in faces at the chin. In fact, in order to make faces look a certain way, photographers will often light the face from the bottom so that those edges are seen better. If we don't leave this light just a little bit lighter, then we again miss out on the opportunity to give that nostril the feeling of a highlight, and also of protrusion, and that it is below something. I'm not going to be darkening the nostrils too much, not yet. First, I will darken everything that is needed to make the nose look more three-dimensional. So you have these light shadows on the side. You have a highlight running right through the center of the nose and around what looks like would be a highlight right at the center of the tip of the nose. Then there seems to be some depression here. So there is a shade or actually lack of highlight. And then we start darkening from the sides. So again, just soft explosions of shadow. While I used lines to shade much of this, I'm using a rubbing method to deposit more graphite in these areas because I want it to look soft. When you rub your pencil onto paper, remember to keep that light and keep changing the pressure of the pencil also. So you don't get sharp edges anymore. Here as well, you'll see that the shadow comes in the center of the septum, but not on the sides. Try to keep that. And on the sides again, don't make a very sharp, harsh line or too many lines there. It's a very delicate area. We need to treat it with that kind of delicacy. Now comes the tricky part. We do need to make a dark area underneath the nostrils, but it should not look ugly. So just the top of the nostrils, you can make in a very, very dark line like that. Just the top line. And underneath that, you will create a shadow that merges with the edge of the nostril muscle that comes from the side on both sides. And on one side, you also see an extended shadow underneath. So it just merges into that shadow. We do not want to show very cavernous nostrils. That is just because of how dark they are. And I have a feeling somehow that when you see something really dark in the nostril, it looks as if the person's either angry or there's some kind of disturbance it creates. So we see that very prominently. Even if you have the most beautiful sketch made, if you draw nostrils like a bull, they attract far too much attention. So gently add the shadows. Here, the shadows are going to be a little subtle. This is another problem area. If you make this too dark, it looks like Hitler's mustache, and we don't want that at all. So a little bit of pencil over here just to equalize the shadow and also the tone. Now, in the event that you go over certain areas where there would have been highlight, you can always use the eraser after this point. Okay, so that's about it, more or less. I have deliberately kept it a little light, not too dark, because I want it to be in a place where we can go back. Once this is done, of course, you'll notice that my estimate of a chin has totally gone wrong. So now I will make a chin somewhere here. The chin, do you see that highlight also? Again, this has gone wrong, I think. I think I'll just shade it. So for the chin, let me make these shadows here from the left side of the face. We'll make a little bit of shading all the way down. Though we see some of her skin really light, there is a good chance that if we were to make this a black and white picture, we'll notice that even the lightest part of her skin is actually really, really dark in gray. So here as well, I am expanding the shaded area as much, just leaving a little highlight on the right part of the chin here. And this is just drawing lines back and forth. I'll get a better idea. The lower lip has become too big, very, very full. And that's because I'm not able to see this right from the top. If I were to tilt my book a little bit like that, you'll see how I'm looking at the illustration because my camera is right on top of this. For the skin, one tool that you can use would be the paper stump. That really helps make the skin smooth. I try very hard to not have to use a paper stump at all. So that for practice, it is good. But you must also know how to use that tool if you want to work on a project that requires very smooth shading, um, because it is a legitimate tool. It's not as if we're cheating. So in that case, the manner in which you go about it is to think of layering graphite, smoothing it, layering again, so on and so forth. Erasing this line. This is what a paper stump looks like. It's just a roll of paper which can be used. It's like a blunt instrument that you can use to gently smooth the graphite lines. If you press them too hard, then it burnishes the paper. Once the paper gets burnished, then it's very difficult to draw on the paper. So just lightly rubbing this is fine. Something similar can be achieved by using your earbuds, maybe. So if you've got earbuds, you can try that. But ideally, don't press it too much. You still want to maintain the tooth of or the texture of the paper. This helps to distribute the graphite very nicely and smoothly. And then whatever graphite gets caught on the edge or the tip can be used as a tool as well to expand the line a little bit, make it a little fuzzy. All right. How was it? Let's see. I love this part the best because till now I haven't seen anybody's anything. Oh, nice, Elaine. I am impressed. I have seen you struggle with faces
Yes.
for
So
years.
it's come much better now.
Yes, very nice. Bhavani, yours is also very good. I like the shading. Shapes individually are good. Just proportions, but that is bound to happen. Yes, okay.
She's got a much bigger nose in mine.
Yes.
What you hiding,
True.
Sonal?
Yeah, the faces.
So sweet.
Yeah, nice, nice. What is your feedback? Tell me what you think about what you have achieved.
My proportions and shapes are not on the they are like not as per what the guidelines that you showed, but
Okay.
because yeah, first time that I've tried these features, I've always given up on eyes itself, never moved beyond those.
I know.
Yeah, so but this
Yeah, that's
like
happening.
yeah, it needs a lot of improvement, right?
So when you say it needs improvement, it would be good to put words to that. It's because then you know what you should work towards. This morning, in fact, there was someone who had commented on one YouTube post that I made. It's very rare. I was most thrilled that there was a comment on the YouTube video. So they'll say, a lot of people say, okay, you need more practice, you need more practice. But that's not enough, because if you just say, keep making faces, it's very possible that you keep making the same error without knowing how to work on that. So each error that you see will have, you can break it down further into what its
Yeah.
components are, and then know what to do. So right now you said that proportions are odd, right?
Yeah.
So
Like,
that gives you one thing to work on, proportions. But how do you get that right? So with proportions, you have size, and you have scale, and you have the difference between the different, or actually, one feature is made out of multiple lines. Which of those lines has worked and which of those lines has thrown your proportion off? That should be identified. Because even in that, it's possible that while we right-handed people can all make the left part of the circle really well, the right part of the circle, no matter what we do, we can't make. So you're probably making the left nostril nicely and the right nostril is just not working. And that might be throwing off the proportion. So then you don't just need practice making noses, you need practice making circles in the direction that you are weak in. That becomes a more aggressive and pointed approach to improving your work.
yeah.
So,
Well,
and these words are not like only I know it, and then you have to look through books and say, okay, which are the words? This is something that you can figure out, and you can make your own terminology, and you can start saying whatever that, instead of space, you can say distance. It doesn't matter. We're talking about the same thing, right? So evaluating your work in that sense becomes very vital for the next thing you do. Even if you don't actually remember the words, that the experience of having captured the adjustments remains in your brain. The next time you approach a picture, you don't even have to think about it. You don't have to, it's not like spelling or maths, that what formula did I forget last time? I don't think you need to do that. Just having gone through one exercise, the next time you approach it fresh and you've forgotten everything, the body remembers, the hand remembers.
so what's the most glaring, mistake in this? Like, I'm still, like, I can't pinpoint. Like you said, it should be targeted corrections and targeted, So, which is very right. Otherwise, you feel lost when you say practice more. It's like a very generic thing. But
Right.
if I practice more, I might end up with the same mistakes again. So,
Correct.
what about like, uh, what is the most? Is the lips not, or the nose too big? I can't make out.
Can you send a picture? Then I would like to share it and I would like to review it. That's a better way
Yeah,
of thinking about it.
yeah, sure. I do.
Yeah, Bhavani is laughing when you said I could make the same
Nice.
mistakes again.
I'm
She's
having
saying
new
you are saying new
mistakes.
mistakes.
Both possibilities, yeah.
Yes, yes, both possibilities. But yeah, so send the picture right away if you can.
I'll do.
What I also notice is sometimes uh, these figuring out what are the glaring mistakes can be an exercise in itself. Like later on tomorrow, if you feel you want to do some kind of art, just observing what you have done and what the reference image was, and figuring out what line looks what way itself can be an exercise in art. You don't even have to pick up a pencil, because that observation is the 50% of what we need for portraiture. In fact, for anything. At portraiture, it's just heightened because the tiniest of lines can change a person's features so drastically. So our illusion totally crumbles.
Send.
Yes. Okay. Right. Okay. So mostly, let's say you have got all the lines in. I would think that this distance, when you made the first line of the mouth, you probably did not adjust for size from the sides. The center is a little crooked, so the center could be slightly straighter. That's why the septum is looking a little off over here, whereas the mouth opening is over here. So that is one angle that is going wrong. Then remember how we had marked on the on our guideline,
Yeah.
about 1/3 of the distance away, we had marked the corners of the mouth. But then I moved mine to almost here visually.
Hmm.
So these are the things that I feel are not done often when we are beginning. We don't know which parts of the guidelines we need not hold on to anymore, which
Yeah.
is not wrong, which is the first stage. If this is day one that you've done it, you will not know that that is the point of adjustment required. Now, had you made that line, you can almost see that if this line was somewhere here, you could use the same other lines. So the lines that you have drawn are not wrong. They're just a different shape or in a different place. It might have worked better. That's it. So minor 1 mm, 2
Yeah.
mm changes here and there.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have some time left. Do you want to attempt another one by yourselves? This time, maybe you can take a black and white image. I have shared 2, 3 black and white images. Or you could just do the nose or just do the mouth. Just do one feature. Needn't do both.
Aditi, could
Yeah.
you just give me a quick run through of the side face of what kind of proportion should I look at if I don't like I can draw lines, of course,
Mhm.
and square it off, and then I'll just match my squares, which is what it's easy to do. How do you measure out the side profile? I think it's the second one that you have
Yeah,
shared.
let me get a full face while you all sketch one thing, and I'll show you the whole face and the proportion size.
Oh, yes.
That would make more sense.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
I'll
right
break it
where
up.
how much further that nose goes out or comes in is just a mystery.
Actually, I'll simplify it for you. Let's see.
Some rule of thumb, when one suddenly looks at a profile or one wants to draw a profile out of your own head. That's the worst.
Yeah. Oh, before I go there, yeah. So
Yeah.
let's just study this face and
Yes.
see how this works. All right. So when we are drawing side faces, you can start off from the forehead to the chin, just drawing a straight line.
Okay.
In fact, just inside it also.
Yeah.
This is how I begin.
Yes.
Then you will see that we have an oval shape mostly to the back, and very often people draw the front of the face and end the face somewhere here, but actually
Right.
the all right. Now let's try making the oval shape. This is going to be a little tough because I have no starting point. Okay, nose tip to wherever this goes.
Yeah.
Okay. There is another circle that can also be made, which is the top of the head and the eye.
Oh,
So this is remember when we made the birds?
yeah.
We created a circle as a starting point, and then we drew everything else around it.
Right.
So we can do something similar over here as well. And the proportions then will change. So let me take on this first circle, the oval shape.
Mm.
Then we'll come to the other one. If we again divide
Half.
circle
Yes.
in half, not really half there, somewhere here. I haven't seen this face before today, so I don't know. I'm just looking at it visually and
So the
divide.
eye comes around half as it is in the front face.
Correct. Very close to the half.
Hmm.
And then maybe we can divide this in threes now that I look at it.
Okay.
And in the first 1/3, you will have all these features come up. Now,
Ah.
how we get to that, we'll come to that later.
Hmm.
If we were to divide the
This
bottom
into half.
into three parts
Three parts. Okay.
or three unequal parts, three
Okay.
equal parts, and then the bottom even further, then we get the chin,
Ah.
we get the
The
mouth
mouth. Yeah.
at half over here, and at half over here we can get the
Ah.
nose and the mouth, and maybe 1/3 we can get the eyes and forehead. Okay,
Yeah.
then again with the ear, very often the ear is made just in this part, but we can draw another line. I refrain from drawing lines just at random without giving them some meaning. So I would divide the top
That's the hairline.
in half as well. Let me change the color so it becomes a little more apparent. It's a little higher. Divide that into either half or 1/3. Those are the proportions that we can see much more easily. And now you get an idea.
Yeah. Where the ear starts and where the ear ends.
Correct.
Right.
But now also notice one thing. The head does not come straight down from the back.
Yeah.
There's a big curve. So you have this, you have the neck curving backward, and then you have shoulders all the way back. This is another thing that we make wrong, is where to draw the neck and then where to draw the body. So often people will draw the neck straight, and you wonder why they're looking so straight-jacketed. There's a lot happening in the neck part. And if you notice right from the center, this is where the neck would come in from 2/3 on the left hand side past the center. This is how you will get the full shape. So let's try making this as just a shape, a silhouette shape to practice. Just give me a second. I don't know what's happened. Oh. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That half.
Now, we've not drawn a perfect circle. Huh?
Yeah.
Remember that.
Like an oval?
Oval, the problem with ovals is ovals are often made as two circles. You know how ovals are made, right? So if you take two circles, assuming this is a perfect circle,
Yeah.
there are two,
Like we do in our calligraphy.
yes, correct. So there are two centers to these circles, and
Mhm.
depending upon how much distance you have between these two centers,
Mhm.
will have an oval running around it. So here you don't have straight lines,
Yeah.
but a trajectory that goes
Yeah.
beyond. And then as you bring the centers closer, this starts becoming more and more round.
Huh.
Finally, when they coincide, you have just one circle.
Circle. Hmm.
So when we have this circle that I've made, you have to
Huh.
figure that bit out. How
Yeah.
much?
So it's not so much one on top of the other. It's a little kind of
Right.
less.
So in this case as well, I would still recommend start off with making a circle to the best of your ability,
Okay.
and then draw another part from where you will have the rest of the circle come about. So your starting point, if you make it an oval,
Yeah.
there can be
Too
some,
narrow.
yeah, there can be some errors.
Yeah.
Narrow or too wide, either can happen.
Acha. Yeah, that's true. But oval, one tends to just elongate that circle too much, and then
Correct,
there's nothing on the side.
correct. Okay, so now we have a straight line
Yeah.
running through the center.
Right.
Then we have just a little above center, we have this center line, the eye line. It's still not centered.
Right.
Then divide this part into threes, and the left hemisphere into threes as well. And the top into half and a quarter.
Half and a quarter.
Yeah. So from this junction, that is, I'm going to mark this out. You have this part from half to one, is it 1/4? This is now, these are divided in thirds. So 1/3, 2/3, and this is half. So 1/3 on the left, right? So this
Hmm.
junction, 1/4 of the top. Here to here, this point being
Yeah.
3 parts of this little
Yeah.
slice as well.
Yeah.
This is where you can draw the forehead. Then you take the line inside for the eye to accommodate the eye. Right now, I've taken it very sharply inside.
Ah.
And then somewhere over here, you have the nose. Just draw straight lines.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Nice.
at half this distance, vertical, you have that bit of skin between the nose and the mouth.
The nose that curve goes almost to 1/3, is it?
Yeah.
My goodness. Never have thought.
And look at how much the lips are inside.
Gosh.
And then you come down here, you make half of this quarter as well to get the
Oh,
right
yes.
measurement of the chin. Bring it straight down for now and then straight into the face. So this is just the bottom of the mouth. So it'll be a little rounded, but the jaw line is somewhere here, which will take us to the ear, which is somewhere here. And if we draw enough lines, we'll know how large the ear is also. But I want you to just wing it for now.
Yeah.
Now the features also are not very close to the edge over here. You'll notice how the eye is way back here and the eyeball is way back in that shape. But the eyebrow, when seen from the side, starts very close to the nose.
Very close to the nose. That protruding bit just below that, in fact.
Correct. And then we can just draw a silhouette of the hair coming
It
all
goes up to 2/3, Aditi.
in this face.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In this case.
It can, as is
Yeah.
evident.
And then, what did you just say? The hairline.
The hairline, just follow the lines that you
Yeah.
see. Now it will be very easy because now you've already started seeing the
Yeah.
shape. Then we have the back of the hair. Again, that line comes to about here. We have all the measuring lines. And my oval has become really round. So if I make the back of his neck this far, he's going to look weird. So I'm going to pull this closer. All this I'm doing very optically. And then take the neck down here. And we know where his neck in front starts. We can draw a trajectory from there to about here. Once you shade, you will be able to see that 3D. I am fairly certain there is a
Wrong.
scientific way to do it also, but
Yes.
don't know that. I rely on my
Yeah.
own science.
Yeah. This is a better way than at that time when I'm seeing a face, I'm going to think of the science. No.
Yeah.
That time I'll be wondering how to my eyebrow and eyes all over. Oh, God. This brow bone, has always puzzled me
Okay.
when I'm drawing brow and where the mouth comes. You know how much it sticks out. See, yours is so much in proportion.
But it's
My
the same lines that
so
we have.
funny.
So you probably just messed up the line, Elaine.
Probably.
It's
You
right there.
should. It's just such an older man. This thing is Adam's apple. No wonder they did anatomy before doing anything of the sort. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So much anatomy they used to do, every muscle, how the skeleton is. No wonder, because without that, this is such a, oh God, I don't want to look at his neck. So bad. Adam's apple of his, I'm not even going to try. It's making him
No,
look
that
so
we don't need to try. It's too pronounced.
very, yeah, it's very bad then. I'll show you, you'll be able to make out what's wrong with my hand just by looking at him.
That even
Nose
you'll be
is
able
too
to.
short.
That the point with so that's the best bit with faces actually, which is often seen as a disadvantage, is that you don't really need a teacher to tell you what is going wrong. So part
Yeah.
of so the evaluation part, any one of us can do it, as opposed to when
Yeah.
there are other paintings which somebody else has
We
to do.
don't, yeah.
It's not objective at all. They would say something and you'll say, no, but I don't think so. I think this is nice, this color is good, and all. There's so much
Yeah.
subjectivity in that. But faces, and especially realistic faces, you don't even need to be an artist. That's the worst bit also about it, that anybody, and even sometimes your relatives who are not doing art will come and tell you, "Arey, but iska naam
Yeah.
theek nahi hai." Of
हाँ,
course, I know
बिल्कुल.
that. I don't need you to tell me that.
Very good yours. Hmm.
But does this help, Elaine? Because
Though
uh,
it helps a lot because, and I just have to practice this proportion of where the mouth comes outwards and inwards. And, I'll show you. It's not great at all, but I'll just show you.
yeah, let me see
See,
what might be different. Yeah, so it's just the side. Look at the shape. But this is such a nice
yeah,
face. The nose has become
No.
hooked, that's all.
Hooked. Imagine.
Yes, it's just the
See, that's
lines.
why, because I keep
So you
looking
can
at
make a
hook noses
straight
in the
line.
house, probably. Like you said now, that you look at people and then you draw something like your own face and all. So everybody in the
Yeah.
family in the men's side has hook noses. So
There,
I suppose.
I used to believe that earlier, but then I came across somebody else also saying the same thing, that we often draw the faces that we see most of. So yes, hooked noses is, you have to just get over it. But then just sculpt it, nah, just erase that and make a straight line. It's not going to be as bad as
Yes, that
rhinoplasty.
yes.
And then see how it
But
looks.
at least now, except for this bit, the mouth thing that I have to do again.
Mm.
And what I'll do is I'll enlarge this a little, then I'll
Yeah.
know exactly where that, mouth
Right.
is coming. The lines are there, so then I'll be able to know.
Correct.
Thanks. This I'll need to practice much more. Maybe my next year, when you draw a sideways face, I'll be able to do that.
You'll be
better.
able to do it really well by then. Yeah, yeah. So one thing to remember is that the upper lip and the lower lip often do not in the silhouette may
Align.
come to the same point. The upper lip may be a little ahead, the lower lip may be a little behind. So that often happens because our teeth sit one on top of the other. We normally have an overbite. Everyone has an overbite. Except my older daughter, whose teeth sit exactly one on top of the other. That's why her incisors
Really?
out.
Even when her
Yeah.
mouth is closed?
Yes, with
How
her mouth
strange.
closed. So she's got holes on the sides. She said, I can't keep my mouth shut like that. They
Yeah.
shut like this. So because of the overbite, the upper lip tends to protrude a little more than the lower lip, and that often is the normal face. If you see yourself making the lips right in line with each other, then just take that line a little behind. And if you take the line a little ahead, that will also change the face, because that
Yes.
sometimes means a protruding jaw.
Jaw.
So
Yeah.
you will have like a jowl that will have a lower lip that protrudes more. So sometimes there are people who have one or the other, but mostly the top lip comes a little higher.
Yeah. So it really sticks out like mine.
Yeah.
So, when you have buck teeth, kind of.
Then it does,
So
yeah.
then it does. Yeah.
You have
No,
enough
yeah. You
support.
really have to, I think, put a mirror next to you and draw.
Yeah, you should, yeah. Okay, so this was good. I've given you plenty of faces to practice with. And next week, like Elaine suggested, we can do a little bit of coloring, colored faces as well. And
And will we be doing a full face?
we will be doing a full face.
Okay.
So I will start off next week's class with the full face first. And then after everyone is totally frustrated and hating all their faces, then we will do the loose painting faces.
Yes, especially the other side, the
Yes.
difficult side. My
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, we'll tackle that. Okay, so thank you everyone.
Maybe that's why
enjoy.
miniatures are always one-sided, because they couldn't paint the other side.
Yeah, or a 3/4 view so that the right and the left is different.
Did you see that cartoon I sent about this chap saying, can you draw a horse from the front?
A horse from front. No, I
It's
have
history of the video. There's a classical painting of a knight on a horse.
Okay.
And in front of him, he's pointing it at another horse.
Okay.
And the person is saying, can you draw a horse from the front? He says, from the front? He says, yes. He says, totally. And there's this most frightful horse from the front he's pointing his lance at. You
Oh,
cannot believe how bad the drawing is. The
oh my
side is beautiful, but the front horse is bow-legged and really, really sad. I have to
Yeah.
I'll send it to you.
Okay. Okay. Send
It's
it.
so
Send it
fun.
on the group. This month we can appreciate how the angle matters.
Poor man.
True.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you,
Okay.
Aditi.
So I will see you next week, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.